Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, the weekly segment in which I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Well folks, we're just 6 weeks away from Wrestlemania, and yes, there is another pay-per-view we gotta get through before that, but hey, Wrestlemania season's finally here and both shows are showing it. Stephanie kicks off Monday Night Raw in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Nevada, Stephanie, not Nevada. I don't care what you East Coasters say. It's Nevada, not Nevada. Let's just get that out of the way right there. Anyway, she talks for a bit. Roman Reigns interrupts her, says he wants Braun Strowman, even threatens to interfere in the Strowman-Mark Henry match later in the night. Stephanie threatens him, saying he's not going to get any chance at WrestleMania if he does interfere, to which then the tag team champions Anderson and Gallows come out and interrupt. This leads to a handicap match between Anderson and Gallows against Roman Reigns, which on the surface is kind of refreshing because we're so used to seeing Roman just fighting, Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens over and over again for the last couple months. To have him wrestle literally anyone else feels like a breath of fresh air. There are audible Roman chants throughout the match, so apparently between Money in the Bank and on Monday night, Roman has gotten slightly more over in Las Vegas with the crowd. The match itself doesn't get very far. Anderson and Gallows keep double teaming Roman. The referee is being ignored. The referee throws it out, disqualifies Anderson and Gallows. They threaten to put Roman in the Magic Killer, but he fights out. He gets a chair and stuff, and basically Anderson and Gallows run away. The segment just ends kind of flat with me. The crowd doesn't really know how to react because it's almost like you expected something else to happen from this, but nothing really did. So that was the end of that. Kofi Kingston taking on Bo Dallas in a pretty standard fare, short and sweet jobber match, but the big takeaway with this was more teasing for this New Day ice cream they've been talking about the last couple of weeks to be released at some future date, probably WrestleMania if I were to guess. Anyway, they had a manila envelope that said ice cream blueprints, and we're going to reveal all the blueprints after the match, but during the match, Bo Dallas, he powders out, he grabs the envelope, and there's this moment where he's threatening to tear it, and the New Day, no, don't do it, and then he does tear it, and the crowd and the New Day all just audibly gasp and wail in pain. They act as if somebody had died, which I thought was a pretty hilarious reaction to the whole thing. Kofi gets revenge by doing a somersault plancha onto Bo Dallas, hits him with the SOS in the ring. The New Day pull a Ted DiBiase and just pour Budio cereal down the gullet of Bo Dallas, and the New Day live to fight another day. So after weeks and weeks and weeks, like 17 weeks they told us, of waiting, we've been so patient and we've been so good, and now it's finally going to happen. The debut, the completion of the makeover from Emma to Emmalina. She comes out and she's wearing a sparkly dress, but other than that she looks no different than before, and then she says, now I'm going to have the makeover from Emmalina to Emma, thank you, and she walks away, and that was it. Boy, that was worth the 17-week wait, wasn't it? I read the reason that they kiboshed the angle on Monday and basically said, well, we're scrapping it now, is because apparently backstage officials didn't like what they saw when she rehearsed the spot earlier in the day. Which seems kind of ridiculous. I mean, you don't give her any direction. What is the Emmalina character? What is the character that she should be investing herself into when at this point you've been pushing back this debut for so long it's become an inside joke? If you don't care about it, why should she? So yeah, Emmalina, 17 weeks of waiting, and then we get that introduction. It's on the level of 7 in WCW, but I don't even think 7 was playing vignettes for 17 weeks. I think this was a much longer wait and probably equal, if not worse, payoff. Because Emmalina, still not wrestling. I know she's working house shows, but she certainly wasn't doing anything with Emmalina here. So now what do you do with Emma? Do you bring her back the next week as herself again? Like, does she get amnesia? Like, I don't know what happened. Emmalina? Who's Emmalina? I'm Emma. What are you talking about? It's just so bizarre and just a god-awful blow-off to this. A lot of people were talking to me on social media saying I should update my worst debuts countdown. I think her debut now definitely ranks up there. The Emmalina thing, maybe not the worst debut. I still think Gobbledygooker had the worst, but ooh boy, this one's not great. Braun Strowman taking on Mark Henry. I think that when Braun Strowman has his WrestleMania match, no matter who it's against, I think his special Mania entrance should be like when he's at the top of the ramp and he does his pose, raw meat just fall from the rafters, like in place of pyro. Just a shower of raw meat. Just goes, bah, then just raw meat everywhere, just a bunch of steaks. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, making Strowman look good because that's what he do. This wasn't a squash match by any means. I mean, it was kind of a quick match, but Henry definitely got his licks in. He definitely looked good in defeat against Strowman in this very short match. He still got to hit Strowman with some stuff. Strowman did some selling for him, but ultimately Strowman pulled a dropkick out of nowhere on Henry, picks up Mark Henry, this big fucker, and slams him with a power slam. He beats him, then Roman Reigns comes out. So we have more of the confrontation between Roman Reigns and Strowman, but Strowman just shuts him down, beats him up some more, And then Strowman walks away and Roman looks defeated. Like, whoa, this is very interesting. We're kind of seeing more of a humanization of Roman Reigns now. He's not looking like the Superman that we've come to expect. I mean, he did kind of fight off Anderson and Gallows earlier, and that was that. But then this one, his bigger opponent for Fastlane, like, we're actually seeing some kind of weakness by Roman Reigns against Strowman. So it now makes you wonder, like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen at Fastlane. Very intriguing. Samoa Joe interviewed backstage by Michael Cole. Again, a great segment here. A great, more example of the company really treating Samoa Joe like a star, like a killer, like bringing him up the way that no other NXT call-up has ever been brought up at this point, as far as I can recall. Short of maybe Kevin Owens. But Samoa Joe is still leaps beyond that. In the interview, Joe took a dig at Sami Zayn, which I thought was kind of random at the time, but then they immediately lead into a Sami Zayn handsome Rusev match. So then you see there's some intertwining things going on here. Sami beats Rusev with a surprise haluva kick as Rusev gets back into the ring after some outside brawling. Sami cuts a promo. He runs down Samoa Joe a bit, then Samoa Joe comes out, jumps Sami, beats the hell out of him, throws him into the wall, coquina clutch. So now we seem to see where Samoa Joe is headed into Fastlane. And kudos to the writing staff for being able to pretty much seamlessly transition Samoa Joe into something else that's not Seth Rollins related after Rollins' injury. Because again, like I said, when he mentioned Sami Zayn in that interview, I thought it was kind of a random dig at Sami, but then Sami comes out and they immediately establish a brand new storyline, a brand new feud here, kind of out of nowhere, but it makes sense in the context of what Joe is doing, what he's brought up to Raw to do. Teddy Long going to the Hall of Fame this year, the third straight home run for Hall of Fame choices for the class of 2017 between him and Kurt Angle and Rock and Roll Express. Not a bad choice so far. When you think about the history of wrestling in America for the last 30 years, Long has done pretty much everything. He was ring crew, he was referee, he was a manager, he was, kayfabe SmackDown general manager. So he's really worn a lot of hats in wrestling over the years, and I think he would be great for the Hall of Fame. I'm going to lump the two Cruiserweight segments into this right here because I don't want to keep changing my jackets. Earlier in the night, Noam Dar loses pretty quickly to Jack Gallagher, the #1 contender for Neville's Cruiserweight title. Neville does come out afterward, Austin Aries, with the line of the night saying he looks like he's in a good mood, and they just have a stare down. Then later on, it's Akira Tozawa taking on Arya Daivari. Tozawa's like screaming, grunting thing is getting over with the fans in a big way already. Ha! 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 Tozawa wins with the German suplex, and meanwhile this is going on, Kendrick, who was on commentary, establishing more of this whole one-sided mentorship where he claims that he is Akira Tozawa's mentor. Tozawa doesn't seem totally into it, or really not even aware of what's going on. Very interesting storyline here. Time now for the much ballyhooed Festival of Friendship. They hyped the hell out of this all throughout the night leading up to this, with package after package showcasing the relationship and the partnership between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Great build, and then this segment happened. A segment that I didn't really have any expectation going into it because I thought it would be more heel celebrating, and then this happened, and they just knocked it out of the park. First off, the contrast of Chris Jericho, way too into it. He's got the big glittery jacket and the glittery fedora, and he's got the Vegas showgirls in his arms, and then Kevin Owens comes out not dressed up, just looking completely flabbergasted, like he doesn't want to be there. I thought the contrast between these two guys and the roles they played, that the whole segment was just terrific. Jericho comes out, he basically gives them all the gifts, the Guggenheim statue, the painting, the parody of Michelangelo's creation with Kevin and Chris. Why aren't you wearing pants? It's art, you don't need pants. And the magician comes out, and the magician gets put on the list. My favorite part of this whole thing was when Jericho called out Goldberg, saying, we're going to confront Goldberg right now. He says, Goldberg, you're going to get... And then it cuts commercial. I'm like, oh my God, was that an error? Like, was that a mistake? And then they come back to commercial, and Jericho's still in the same position, and he goes, it! And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's brilliant. I love that kind of joke when like there's a joke set up, and then it's cut off by commercial, and then the commercial ends, and then the punchline. It doesn't happen very often. It's a very rare trick to see in comedy, but when it works, it's so awesome, and I love it, and that was just the highlight for me. But then they do top that by, instead of Goldberg, out comes Gilbert, and then he's promptly destroyed by Kevin Owens. Cole has to take a dump on everything and pause to explain to the audience, the younger viewers at home, just who Gilbert is. Like, we didn't need that. We didn't need you to say, he was a parody that we did of Goldberg in the Attitude Era. Like, we get it. We don't need that level of exposition in this overall thing. You almost killed it for me, Cole. But then Chris gets heartfelt. He explains to Kevin how much fun this run has been in the company with the two of them side by side. He says he loves him. They hug, and then Kevin Owens gives him the gift. And oh my God, the reveal and the payoff to this was just so sweet. It was just Jericho's, it's a new list. And he's like, wait, Why is my name on it? Reveal list of KO. Oh no, and then he beats up Chris Jericho, and the fans are, no, they don't know what to do. Everyone's heart's been broken over this, and Owens just beats the hell out of Chris Jericho. He throws him into the fake whatever looking TV screen, shades of Jericho's heel turn against Shawn Michaels in '08. Jericho's laid out. Kevin Owens is just now the most hated man in America, and it was just amazing, fantastic segment. I would have to say an early front runner for segment of the year in WWE. I don't see any problem with what they did here. So now we got to wait until next week to figure out why Kevin why. A couple of months ago when Roadblock happened and Chris hit Kevin Owens with the code breaker to disqualify him, I thought that was going to lead to something where Chris would turn on Kevin. But as time went on, you realize that would be a bad choice for Kevin to be the babyface in this one. It has to be Chris is the face and Kevin is the heel, because they both play those roles so well. And Jericho as the friend who actually believed in the friendship, and Kevin Owens just throwing it all away. What did the conversation between Kevin and Triple H from earlier in the night have to play into this? Ooh, lots of intrigue, lots of very interesting things now happening from this. Where is Chris Jericho going to figure in at Fastlane? Is he going to cost Kevin Owens the title against Goldberg? Ooh, I'm really excited for this. Enzo and Cesaro in a short and sweet match, continuing the tag team rivalry here. At one point, Enzo botches going over the top rope. He hits the ropes, stops, then goes over the top. That was a little silly. But eventually Cesaro wins after a very European uppercut. That's all there is to say. Women's Championship on the line in the main event as Charlotte defending against Bayley. I have to eat some crow here because a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, I definitely talked about how I was not digging the Charlotte-Bayley feud, but over time it's really grown on me. I like these two together as rivals because I think Bayley and Charlotte are better foils for each other than Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks, I've not been impressed with her as a babyface. I think she's a much better heel in terms of wrestling style and character and promo. Way better as a heel, like she was in NXT, than she's been as a babyface on Raw in the last half a year or so. So I'm like Bayley. She's just a much better natural foil to Charlotte because she's a natural babyface. Charlotte's a natural heel. It just works so well. So now this match was a great way to end the show. It was a great main event. I loved the risks these two took. The cutoff that Charlotte had, the schoolboy with the back of the head into the turnbuckle looked really stiff. And then you see Charlotte working the head and neck area for the rest of the match. Both women taking some risks. You have Charlotte doing the moonsault off the barricade onto the floor. Then later in the match, you've got Bayley doing the elbow drop on the top rope. She almost loses her balance, but then she recovers, hits the elbow drop there. Great stuff. Bayley's just throwing everything she can at Charlotte, really looking tough as hell, while Charlotte is also looking very strong. Bayley's hitting the top rope elbow, like I mentioned, the top rope Hurricane Rana. Nothing's putting her away. She even puts Charlotte in the figure 4. That doesn't work. Charlotte puts Bayley in the figure 8 after a while. Dana Brooke appears, and so she's selling. She's in the hold. Then Sasha Banks comes out of nowhere with a crutch. She obliterates Dana Brooke with the crutch on the outside. Then she boob punches Charlotte with the crutch while the referee isn't looking. Bayley hits the belly to belly and wins the Women's Championship. Big way to end Raw, and Bayley's your new women's champion. Very exciting, emotional moment, a great way to cap off this great match. But we've seen this movie before. We've seen this happen before where, the babyface beats Charlotte in the main event or whenever on Raw for the Women's Championship, but we're 2 weeks away from a pay-per-view or 3 weeks away from a pay-per-view. What do you think is going to happen? Charlotte's not going to lose her undefeated pay-per-view streak before Mania. That ain't happening. That'd be a weird anticlimactic payoff to have it end Fastlane. So we're going to see a 3-week championship reign by Bayley, and then they're going to have something else at Mania. But again, this is just the pattern they keep falling themselves into, where we're going to have a big title change on Raw, and we're all supposed to act like it's a big deal, and then Charlotte's going to win it back in 3 weeks in the pay-per-view because she's the pay-per-view queen. I almost wish that they didn't have this match on Raw. I wish they just waited and just had Bayley lose again on Fastlane or something. I don't know. I think having it on Raw, it's more of that kind of hot shot thing I talked about last week. And maybe not to the same degree as last week's stuff, but I'm just kind of concerned. It's going to be more hot potatoing. By the end of this month, or by the end of February, Charlotte's going to be a 5-time women's champion. SmackDown in Anaheim. Bray Wyatt, the new champion, starts things off. Conspicuous in his absence is Randy Orton, who won the Rumble last month, you might recall. The fans give Bray a "You deserve it" chant, which I still hate. I think it's such an entitled, smarkish thing for fans to do. It's we have to put our stamp of approval on this thing. We don't do this chant for wrestlers we don't like who win the championship, but you, oh yeah, we're going to give it to you. And even if he does deserve it, I just don't think it's like, it's such a, again, smarkish chant. I hate it. It doesn't fit the character of Bray Wyatt to get a chant like that. John Cena interrupts, kind of poo-poos the whole idea of Bray deserving anything because you have to earn everything in the WWE. Like, yeah, well, Bray Wyatt did earn the championship. He beat you and AJ Styles in the same night on Sunday. So yeah, I think he earned it. Speaking of which, AJ Styles comes out to interrupt. He says he wants his one-on-one rematch for the championship that he never got after losing to John Cena at the Rumble. Daniel Bryan comes out, makes it a triple threat for the main event, which is still not what AJ Styles asked for, so I don't know if he's getting his rematch now or what, but anyway, championship match, triple threat style in the main event. American Alpha taking on the Ascension. How do you think this is going to end, folks? American Alpha wins the way they always have since coming to SmackDown. And here's the thing. I like American Alpha. I think they're a great team, but I feel they've gotten stale and overexposed since the brand splits happened. They've beaten every other team in the division at least 3 times over, including the Usos, who, by all accounts, at the end of this segment's any indication, they're going to fight again. So what do you do? I mean, I don't think the revival is going to come up until after Mania, so how are they going to keep treading water until then? I just think it's getting stale. What's left for them to do? Kind of a scary moment on SmackDown, folks, as we almost had another James Ellsworth match. It was supposed to be Ellsworth taking on Dean Ambrose. Ellsworth was going to defend the honor of Carmella at Carmella's urging after a backstage segment from earlier in the night, but the match never happens because Dean Ambrose gets beat up on his way to the ring by Baron Corbin. Corbin beats him up. It's a continuation of the Elimination Chamber stuff that happened. Corbin does a deep 6 onto Ambrose into a table that produces sparks. In fact, actually funny to notice, the sparks started flying just before Ambrose actually hit the table. In one of these several backstage bits we saw on this episode of SmackDown, Daniel Bryan made a match for next week, a Falls Count Anywhere match between Natalya and Nikki Bella. Not much else to say about this bit except for during the security guard pull-apart they had, who was one of the security guards? Why, none other than Rock the Promo champion, Broseph Joe Brody. Becky Lynch taking on Mickie James in a rematch from Elimination Chamber. I've said this before, how much I detest like rematches from pay-per-views like the night before, or in this case 2 nights before. It just makes what they did at the pay-per-view seem totally redundant to me. I hate them when it's that close together. But yes, man, I thought this is still a fine match. I think that both women, especially Becky, gave some big bumps in this match. There was like a double down, double clothesline spot on the outside early on. So on the floor, both women bump on the floor. Becky Lynch doing a top rope missile dropkick attempt. She just lands on her back, just like she whiffs it. And so huge bump by Becky Lynch there. Becky's working the arm of Mickie James throughout the match. She knocks Mickie off the apron at one point. Mickie's selling an arm injury, like, oh, it's real. She backs the referee, gets the referee to back off while Becky's guard is down. Mickie hits her with a mick kick and gets her win back. And again, another thing I don't like about these pay-per-view rematches is that usually it's the other person winning, so it's the 50-50 booking style. We all hate it. It's not fun. So there you go. Naomi, the new SmackDown Women's Champion, doesn't even get her own entrance, as they announced in a in-ring segment that apparently Naomi suffered a knee injury of some kind during her match at Elimination Chamber. They weren't specific as to what the injury was or what the extent of it was. Alexa Bliss comes out and she basically mocks Naomi for her injury. She says next week we should either have a rematch for the title or you hand the belt over to me. I don't think that's how it works, but I am curious to see what they do next week, because if the injury is serious, I hope that Naomi doesn't have to relinquish the belt back to Alexa Bliss in this kind of fashion. At the same time, I don't want to see a title rematch so soon either. We'll have to see what happens next week. The title is on the line in the main event as Bray Wyatt defends against John Cena and AJ Styles. Before that happens, a wild Luke Harper appears and beats up Bray Wyatt on the outside. This match was really bonkers from beginning to end. There was very little time for anyone there's no slow points in this match, I feel. It was just go, go, go the whole time. Like, to give you an example of this, like they came out of a commercial and Styles was like in midair doing a big splash on a Bray Wyatt on a table, and they had to do the spot over again because the table didn't break. Cool sequence here by Styles and Cena where Cena hits Styles with the attitude adjustment, goes to the second one, kind of like what he did to win the title at the Rumble, but Styles counters that into a calf crusher, Cena counters that into an STF, and then it's all broken up at the end when Wyatt comes in and does the senton to both of them. The match ends when Styles goes for a phenomenal forearm, Cena trips him up, and basically Styles guts himself from the top rope. Cena turns around, eats a Sister Abby at the hands of Bray Wyatt, and pins him and retains the championship. So very good look for Bray Wyatt in this triple threat match. And at the end, he's pinning John Cena twice in 3 nights. So Bray is celebrating in the ring. Out comes Randy Orton. They have a bit of a stare down. It's the WrestleMania matchup happening here, folks. But Orton says he can't fight the master. While he is the servant, he dedicates his life to Bray Wyatt, and basically he gives up his #1 contendership status in favor of not fighting Bray Wyatt. And that's how SmackDown ended. Now, on Talking SmackDown announced that next week on SmackDown, there's going to be a battle royal to determine the new #1 contender. So basically, it sounds like SmackDown is going to be a huge, very well-stacked show just from looking at what they did this week. But man, a lot of people are pissed about this. Like, the Rumble doesn't mean anything now. The Rumble's dead. He just gives it, it's dead. No, hang on. I think you guys are getting a little too upset about this because I don't think it's going to be that cut and dry. They wouldn't do that. There are still 6 weeks to go before WrestleMania. You've got to let this thing grow and develop and give it a chance. And I know in the past I have been very judgmental of storylines before things have played out. So I just want to say, please give this a chance. The Rumble is not dead. There should be a purpose to this. I would be very surprised if it was just that simple of, oh, Randy's not going to be the #1 contender anymore. Rumble's meaningless. It can't be that easy. It can't be that stupid, Here's what I think is going to happen. Here's my prediction. I don't do much fantasy booking, but here's what I think is going to happen. Luke Harper is going to win the Battle Royal next week. And Bray Wyatt, needing insurance policy, will go, I need your help, Randy. I need you back in the championship match, Randy, to help me beat Luke Harper, Randy. And so Randy gets back in the match then. That's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be a Wyatt family triple threat. That's my prediction for the whole thing. It's not going to be a thing where Randy just gives it up and renders the Rumble meaningless. There's going to be more to it. Give it time. That's my prediction. Time now for me to decide who won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. And folks, I got to give the nod to Raw this week. Now, SmackDown did have some good stuff. I really love the triple threat match. That was a bonkers triple threat match. I really enjoyed it. I like where they're going, not only with the Dean Ambrose, Baron Corbin stuff, but also the stuff with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. I'm not going to say the sky is falling with that storyline yet. I'm still hopeful and I'm intrigued as to what's going to happen with that. That was not a negative for me. But in the end, I thought that with SmackDown, there were just too many backstage stuff, too many promos, not enough matches, not enough good matches. And I think that the Mickie-Becky match, as fine as it was, I thought it was too soon to have that rematch from the pay-per-view. Meanwhile, on Raw, I was more entertained throughout the 3 hours. I loved the Bo Dallas New Day bit. I thought them tearing up the ice cream blueprints and the New Day just going, no! That was like a hilarious spot. I thought that was great stuff. Samoa Joe still being booked as a killer, booked super strong. I loved it. And then the Festival of Friendship. I give them all the points for Festival of Friendship. That was just an amazing segment. It blended like the absurdity of This Is Your Life with like the heartbreak and the emotion of Jericho turning on Shawn Michaels in 08 in the highlight reel. I think it just combined so much good stuff there. It had funny stuff, it had dramatic stuff, emotional stuff, like, oh, the friendship is over, this twist at the end with the clipboard. It was brilliant. I loved it. And then the Women's Championship match, too, on Raw, I thought was great. Like I said, long term, I'm not liking where this is going, but in a bubble, I thought the match was very good. It was the best match I've seen from these two in their series. And now, Raw wasn't perfect. I didn't like the handicap match at the beginning, and it's super flat. And I want to see more stuff between Roman and Anderson and Gallows. I want to see more Anderson and Gallows just messing stuff up for a bunch of different people. It seems there's a lot of like segregation almost between single stars and tag division. It's kind of like almost the way the cruiserweights are treated on Raw, where there's like cruiserweights and everything else. But now I want to see more integration between the tag scene and the singles scene. And then, of course, Emmalina's debut, if you want to call it that, ranks up there with like 7 as far as one of the biggest like bait and switch gotcha kind of debuts, like almost for the sake of just making the people in the back laugh, making Vincent McMahon laugh. But all that build and all that hype for no gain, and now we're going to see Emma back to her usual self, probably. I'll see you in 2018, Emma. So let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown in the comments section below, and don't forget to vote on which show you thought won for the week in the poll on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.